Welcome everyone to another Comics Week in Review. Where we talk about everything happening in the comic book world. I'm Steve McGauley, editor-in-chief of TMStash.com. With me tonight is the TM Stash crew: Ed Garrett, Joseph Gagel, Nick Duran. How are we doing, guys?
Doing great.
It has been a long day for you, Ed, hasn't it?
It has. Just got back not long ago from NC ComicCon in Durham. Uh, this con keeps growing. Last year, I want to say it was around between 5,000 and 8,000. It looked like it was double this year. Just people elbow to elbow. They had a lot of television stars as well as comics writers and artists there. We have a few interviews that will be popping up later this week on the site. We'll also have a lot of cosplay pictures that were there. Dark Horse had a really good panel talking about mostly their licensed properties, a little bit of information on their Project Black Sky. One of the things they are getting to bring back pretty soon as a character is CWiR, which is a big character for them back in the day.
Pamela Anderson.
You got it. Action Lab, which we've been following from almost the beginning, has now grown to be the 13th largest publisher in North America as of October. They're continuing to grow. They have a lot more books coming out very soon, including next year. They've got the a license with Puppet Master series. If you've ever seen one of those old movies from of the Puppet Master series, they'll be having that come out next year. They've also got a brand new series or a brand new volume of Princeless coming out, which is fantastic. So they had a really good week here. One of the nice little things I came back with, and I don't know if you can see this really well back here, was a little bit of swag from Valiant. Some little plushies here for Faith, who's also known as Zephyr from the Renegades, who has now just joined Unity. Bloodshot looks much more adorable and cute than he does in these comics. And Exo Man of War. So we had a really good time. Brought back some other stuff, and you'll see some more things coming up soon. But man, it was really packed. It was a great con. And again, if you're in the Durham area or you can get there at this time of year, they tend to have a really good concept up there. The guys from Ultimate Comics have a separate enterprise that puts this on, and they have Tommy Lee Edwards heading up the con. So you've got somebody who really knows comics, who really has a lot of good context in the comics industry. So we had a great time.
Sounds like it. It sounds like it's getting big. I was surprised. You said earlier there was like 10,000 people or something.
It looked like that at least. We'll get an accurate count this coming week, but I know on Saturday you really could hardly move in the convention center. They were packed as far as they could legally go, and it was certainly significantly higher. Even and last year's crowd was good, but this looked to be maybe easily double what they had last year.
What was your favorite cosplay, Ed?
Oh my gosh, that one would be hard. There were a lot of real inventive Doctor Who cosplays, which I really did like. I don't know, man. I've got so many pictures here. You'll just have to see. It was really good.
Some of the best ones I've seen lately have been Saga.
There were several Saga cosplayers there. There were the minimum legal requirement of Deadpool and Harley Quinn cosplayers. You know, there is a federal law that requires a certain number at each con.
Was Deadpool doing any conga lines?
Well, I'll tell you what, there was one very famous Deadpool player that we managed to get a picture of, and there were a lot of Deadpool variants. There was a Green Lantern Deadpool. There was a Deadpool with a horse head. There was a Deadpool with a boombox and all the bling in the world. There were female Deadpools. There was a little bit of everything. There was even, and I'm not sure we got a picture of this guy, but we had at least one male Harley Quinn.
So I love a good male Harley Quinn. It's disturbing and funny at the same.
There were a lot of gender costumes of all kinds there, which was really cool to see. People just rocking whatever costume they wanted to play as, and so it was fun.
I always tell Marissa that if I ever were to dress up in cosplay, the only one I would do is Deadpool, so my friends would have my non-comic friends would never be able to prove as me.
There was even one crew of Deadpools that traveled around together through the whole thing. So it was quite a blast. There was also an Adam West style Batman with a very realistic copy of the Adam West costume.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So well, like I said, early this week, we will have a whole lot of costumes up on the site. It was a blast.
Very cool.
Very cool.
And I am tired but happy.
Yeah. So be on the lookout for that. It sounds like you get a lot of work to do in the coming week. This past week was also particularly crazy, as it seemed like last week was a little bit of a lull for comics, and then this week kind of came out with a fury. I know Marvel had quite a bit going on with Axis, Deadpool vs. Hawkeye, which I'm still trying to get caught up on. But Joe, you like Deadpool vs. Hawkeye. I know Nick did too.
Yeah, it was a pretty good issue. They're still trying to figure out what's going on with their actual serious situation, but it seems like always with Deadpool, there's always not so serious things going on, like him being obsessed with why Hawkeye is put the Sky Cycle in the garage instead of actually using it.
And he thought it would be a lot easier to accomplish the mission if he had the Sky Cycle.
And then waiting for as they wait for results from the lab, they kill time by going back to Deadpool's with some Mexican food and video games. So it was a really good issue.
Yeah, and the thing that's great about it is Deadpool never takes anything serious in this book, and he's cracking jokes. But if you think about it, Deadpool is the most on top of this case out of the three of them. They're all serious, and Deadpool's still proving you can relax and still get things done. And his go-to thing is every week he calls Hawkeye something else, another variation of his name, and Hawkeye broke a chair and he called him Hulk Guy.
And I think, and it was funny. I can't remember the name, but he called the girl that Hawkeye was with something like I can't remember. But it was really funny because he mixed up two names together. But it was going on the not so serious motif of Deadpool.
It was a good one.
What else happened with Marvel this week? How was Axis?
Well, there's a lot went on with Axis, not just the title, but some of the things that surrounded it. But mainly in the main title, we see Captain America and the other Avengers who have had their moral compass inversed. They're kind of bad guys now, or acting that way, and they call a big meeting with the rest of the Avengers, the people who haven't been affected by this. And in a nutshell, Captain America just kind of looks at him and says, "You're a liability to me," and he pretty much zaps him away into a containment place that has to do with the PIM technology. And the only people that escape that are Spider-Man and Nova. And of course, their personalities are intact, so they get out. And in the Nova book, it's a really fun book because in that book he fights Clue because Clue, which is the Black Hulk, who's just on a rampage, and he's getting ready to go through his hometown, and they have a really good fight that Nova doesn't really win, but I mean he puts up a valiant fight, and it was a really good battle. But back in Axis, after they lock away the Avengers, the X-Men show up, or now who are kind of like the bad X-Men, with their new leader, Genesis, who has become the new Apocalypse, and he pretty much beats the heck out of the new Captain America and tells him and the rest of the human population of New York or Manhattan that they have 3 hours to vacate. So that kind of ended that book, and that was really intense the way it kind of ended. But another really big thing... Oh, go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
So Charles Xavier's on the loose, though. That's the key to this series. Is
the Red Skull has disappeared from custody, and they haven't really said how that happened yet. So that ought to be neat to see how he falls into that, because that they're looking for him too. That's part of that invasion. But the other big thing that come out of Axis was the Superior Iron Man #1, and this really showed us where Tony Stark was with his inverted personality, and he's back to drinking again. His hubris is as big as it's ever been. He's released this Extremis app on a phone to the population of San Francisco, and basically this app will turn you into your perfect image of yourself. You look flawless. It's an improvement. It's a gift. And but there's a little hook in this cinch here that he made it free trial only, and after the trial everybody went back to looking hideous or their unperfect selves, and so now they want more. But he says you can have more, but for a price. It's going to cost you. So now he's created a need for something almost like a drug, if you will. And on top of that, he's created a new suit that's based off of symbiote technology that can come onto him just like a symbiote suit, but it's all nanotech, and it looks really, really cool. But the issue kind of ends with him enjoying the people wanting this from him, and it's kind of like he's kind of sinister now. Nick, what do you think about that?
So I love Tony Stark being a dick. Like, that's the essence of Tony Stark.
Love the fact that he's such a jerk.
That's Tony Stark. But here's my question. I love the issue. Let me get that out of the way first, and now I'm going to question the issue. Why did Deadpool go and become Buddha Zen? Because it was his inverted personality. Tony Stark's already a dick. Shouldn't Tony Stark be his inverted personality, being giving stuff away for free and being... I know Tony Stark's good down to the core, but he's got that hubris already.
Yeah, I think with him, kind of like with Captain America, they weren't, they didn't turn Captain America bad. They made him selfish instead of selfless. So I'm thinking that, whereas Iron Man has always been kind of a dick and he's kind of been altruistic, but now he's kind of like, well, I'm going to be a little selfish too, but I'm going to be sinister about it. Maybe that's they're playing on, and especially with the drinking thing, that
I love drunk Tony Stark.
He has a different personality when he's drunk, and it kind of, lets it go. And also that kind of carries over into the at the end of the Captain America and the Mighty Avengers issue where he is, it's part of Axis, and at the end, him and Iron Man get together and talk about how they're going to break up and destroy the Mighty Avengers. So it's this whole inversion thing is really hitting it on the hero side, and the villain side, they haven't revealed a whole lot, but the bad guys are kind of being good now. So it's and then there's all these people that weren't affected by it, and they're just trying to figure out what the heck's been going on. So it's been really chaotic in that sense, and it's been a good story, I think.
Comes down to Magneto. Magneto's like the key player to this whole thing, and I think he's going to continue to be a key player.
And I don't think he was affected by the spell either. They haven't really said one way or the other, but I don't.
He's got his helmet, right?
Yeah, I think that may have been the key there. But,
and if he had his powers, this would be done.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what we thought last time, I guess, when he killed the Red Skull.
He's just gonna get his powers back and nuke everyone.
Yeah, he's too. That's why Magneto's become such a fun character, though, because he still is Magneto, but he's not ever powerful. He's still powerful, but it's actually a fair fight.
Awesome. Anything else happening in the Marvel Universe?
Yeah, I had a couple oddball books that I really liked. I think She-Hulk. It had the third to last issue, and it was about they've been on trial with Captain America, and this was the end of that story arc, and now Charles Soule's going to be wrapping it up in the next two. But this was really cool. So they left us with Captain America. We found out convinced Matt Murdock to go against him as the plaintiff, defending the plaintiffs. He had She-Hulk as his lawyer, so he set this up. He wanted the best lawyer to try to prove that he was guilty of this wrongful death suit, and he wanted She-Hulk to defend him. And he even testified that the story the plaintiff said was, he testified that said, oh yeah, they're telling the truth. So it was quite the cliffhanger, and it was fun to watch this. And Charles Soule, being a lawyer himself, a lawyer and a writer, and does a band, and I'm pretty sure he's probably gonna create a cure for cancer. This guy does everything, but he was at home here. This is his, like, he knows law, so it was really cool. And it's a story that doesn't have a lot of action. It has a lot of wit. It has a little action here and there, but it's well written, smart story, and very witty. And I also enjoyed Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer was my Marvel of the week. It was a one-off story, and Silver Surfer and this human, Don Greenwood, have been traveling through the galaxy, and you kind of have an idea that they're soulmates, and she constantly gets captured, and he constantly has to rescue her. But in this issue, she gets captured, and while he's rescuing her, he's going through a flashback of all this adventure they've been on that we haven't seen yet, and it's just kind of like, oh, they really are. It was a good story of two people connecting, and I thought it was well written.
Did you read Thor this week?
Not watching the podcast. He has a She-Hulk comic right over his shoulder, mounted on the wall. So he is a fan. So coming from a fanboy.
Yeah, I like She-Hulk. I also I read Thor. Thor was good. Thor was really good.
I really liked how she doesn't. She, how they had her discovering her being Thor without telling you who she was, because even she was really confused and like, oh, I've got this hammer now, and I'm talking like in Asgard, and oh, I didn't know I could fly and I could do this. So it was really good how they wrote that without revealing who it was just yet.
So I'm not a Marvel. I love Marvel, but I'm not like the fanboy to the degree Joe is. So Joe, do you know who it is yet? Because they gave a couple, without cheating, did you figure out who it is yet? Because they gave a couple clues in this book, which I really like about this series. It's not just that it was a fun series to watch and you got to watch her break a lot of shit, but they gave two clues that I caught. I caught that she's not from Asgard because when she thinks in her head, she thinks like you or I would. She doesn't think in the way she speaks in old whatever. And she has been face to face with our villain before because she knew who he was. That Dario guy.
Okay.
I don't know who he is. But she has a past with Dario.
My pick is Captain Marvel.
No way. But she has her own series, doesn't she?
Yeah,
but both?
I don't know. I could be completely wrong, but the writer has said that it's going to be someone who's been close to Thor because in the recent series before the hammer changed hands, he said there's been a good 5 or 7 recurring female characters, and he said it will be one of those most likely. So I don't know if she's one of them, and I didn't follow it that closely. So I do like how you pointed out the different language in her head versus spoken. That does give a big tip that it could be somebody from Earth.
Mm-hmm. It was cool. I think. Oh God, I read Jason Aaron. Jason Aaron does a great job, and he knows what he's doing. And it's these guys who we see in all these series. It's because they write well, and this was very well written because of the clues and the.
Sounds good. Sounds awesome. Is that all we got for Marvel? That's it?
Yeah, I think that's all I got.
Well, that's okay. That's quite all right.
Spider-Verse was good.
Boo.
You didn't like it? You can't. Okay, so Spider-Verse I don't think can be picked as the best or worst because, and now I'm ruining Joe because he probably already had that lined up for his worst. It had 7 different stories. Some stories were awful. Some stories were good. But my favorite story was, I'm sorry to prolong the Marvel here, Ed, but my favorite story was, you know how they used to do Spider-Man in the newspaper, and it was just like you'd have to follow it 2 panels at a time. So they had this Moreland guy show up to kill the Spider-Man in that universe, and it kept going. So it did 2, and then under it had 2 more, and he goes, wait, why are you repeating it? Because in the comic strip, Peter Parker would kind of repeat what happened in last week's. He'd be like, "Why are you here to fight me, Moreland?" And he's like, "Wait, we already established that. Why are you repeating yourself?" "Moreland's here to fight me." Wait. Okay, I'm leaving. This sucks. And then you remember the Twinkie ads. I know Ed will get a kick out of this. You remember when they used to do the Twinkie ads? Well, they did one of those. They did one of those in the Spider-Verse. And instead of it being for Twinkies, the whole thing about this whole Spider-Verse series is these guys are going to different multiverses and eating the Spider-Man. They get the energy from eating the energy out of the Spider-Man. So it was an ad for tasty spider snacks. So he ate a Spider-Man. It was really well done. So those two stories alone, Joe, is why I enjoyed it.
The only problem I really had with it is that they weren't bad, but when you have Spider-Verse #1, I expected it to be a core story book, and it wasn't. And I had nothing to carry any of the story forward, and I was really kind of after the Amazing Spider-Man #9, which really kicked the story off. I was really expecting some, I guess, meat and potatoes, and I got a salad.
I get it. That's why I didn't like the all-new Captain America. I thought it wasn't worthy of #1, so I understand. I'm with you on that one.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up Marvel, but which is a lot, but that wasn't even really the meat and the bones of what we had this week in the comic book world. Is the indie scene really seemed to dominate this week with The Walking Dead, well, Image in general, Witches, which I still haven't read, which I need to read, and Ed had like 3,000 reviews, I think, to do this week, on top of going to NC ComicCon.
This was the best week for indies as a whole that we've had since we started the site. I haven't seen a week where I really got hyped up about this many books, and honestly, didn't get to all of them that I really liked even at that. I think I've got maybe 20 books in the 3 different lists I normally do, 10 spot, pressed to the 9s, and grade 8, and I could have easily put another 5 or 10 in that group. Red Sonja I really like, but I'm a Gail Simone fan, so I'll plead guilty to that one right away. But it's a new arc. She's been cursed to not be able to forgive, which doesn't sound like much of a deal until you realize how it plays out, because now the smallest slight, she's going to kick somebody's butt. It's, she just doesn't know how to hold back. So it looks like it's going to be a good one. The Damnation of Charlie Wormwood, I'm going to be talking about every time this one comes up in print. I'm a few chapters ahead of it on Thrillbent, and that's Mark Waid's big enterprise for digital comics, which if you want to get in on that, that's a really great deal. You pay $3.99 a month, and you get full access to every book they've got online, and they'll put in like one chapter at a time, putting it in a digital format. This brings story to print, and it translates very well. It's a little bit of Breaking Bad in it, but it's its own story, and you're going to see Charlie Wormwood's life basically fall apart before your eyes. It's a great book. Valiant was having fun with Archer and Armstrong, the 1%, about one of the sects that are out there. And some stories came to an end. Clockwork Angels came to an end. That was, I know nobody admits to being a fan of the band Rush, but at the same time, this is based off of an album that they did years ago with lyrics by Neil Peart, and it was just one of the most beautifully illustrated books I've ever seen. Ghosted I really love over at Image. Josh Williamson does a great job with that story. It's sort of a noir meets horror kind of deal, because you've got a supernatural, a guy who's been a thief, now a supernatural thief. He's been stealing ghosts, or at least stealing things related to ghosts. And then Indestructible, which is a Darby Pop book, is one of the funniest I've seen. This is a guy who has no powers in a world where the folks with powers are celebrated like pop stars. And he stops a robbery. He had a metal flask in his jacket, a little bit of, and it stops a bullet. And everybody thinks that what stopped the bullet was that suddenly he had powers. And so he decides to go along with it because, hey, you get a little bit of adulation, and suddenly he's finding himself being recruited by every superhero team out there. He finds himself in serious danger and somehow keeps escaping danger time after time in a way that lets him get away with continuing to lie about having powers. And it's one of the more hilarious are out there. That was just the start of the list, man. There was a bunch of good. Witches was out there.
Witches was good.
Nick, did you read Witches?
I did. I'm definitely a Scott Snyder fanboy, so I read that. It was pretty good.
Yeah,
it started with a little backstory, and then by the end of it, every character was getting scared to their core.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that one's going to creep me out pretty bad before you start, and that's in a very good way. I really like that.
Anyone who reads, like you read his Batman and stuff. With his story arcs, they build on each other, and the momentum comes. It's fun, or not? Well, I wouldn't say fun, but it's quite the ride.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Man, there were so many that were really good. I'm just looking through some of my list here. Resurrectionists started this week from Fred Van Lente over at Dark Horse. It's a creator-owned book, and it's where what you've got is the same group of people have been trying to steal this one thing for 3,000 years, and every time they die and come back to life, they're able to not only remember their past lives, but they gain the knowledge and abilities that they gained in that previous life. And this is their last chance to make that score. And if they don't, it's going to affect their future lives. That was good. Unity was good. Man, there was just not a lot of bad stuff out there. Evil Empire. Max Bemis, who's the lead singer of Say Anything, he already proved with another series from him that he was a great writer. This one, it's what would happen if a guy who got to be president of the United States just flat didn't care if the world burned? And he sort of reset the United States up under a state of emergency, under laws that basically said you can do whatever you want to do and no one can stop you. So it's just taken the entire country into anarchy, and he wants it that way. He wants to see the world burn.
Well, fortunately for us, the Senate and Congress could stop him. So
yeah, they don't stand a chance in this one. But yeah, this was just one of the best weeks for indies I've seen in a while. Nick, were there some other ones that you liked?
Oh yeah, Walking Dead. We building on this new. Ever since the Negan storyline, we kind of went into they figuring out how to live life together. But now we have a new bad guy. First, we thought maybe the zombies have evolved and now they can talk, but we realized they're a new group of bad guys called the Whisperers. It had a lot of Jesus the character. It didn't get religious. It had a lot to do with Jesus. Had a lot to do with Carl, and the only thing missing was Rick Grimes. Witches we talked about. I really enjoyed that. Copperhead is the space western by Image. I really like that. That's about a woman who becomes a outlaw in a mining town. It's very spaghetti western meets space. That came out. So her first case
cool.
is.
That sounds like Firefly.
Yes, and I reviewed it when the first one came out, and I actually kind of referenced towards Firefly. It's cool. It's she's.
To take us on a rabbit hole for a second, I've tried reading Firefly. I'm a huge fan of Firefly, but tried reading the comics, and I'm sorry, it just doesn't hold up to the TV show or Serenity.
They never do. They never do. I didn't.
It's so hard. I feel so bad because it's a Dark Horse book, right?
Right, it was. And you had brother Zach, not Josh. Josh did not write the comic. Zach wrote the comic.
Yeah.
And not that it was bad, but it didn't hold up as well as the show. I'll agree with you.
Like Django, I didn't even want to read it. Django and Zorro came out this week, and they just they don't hold up. I'm excited to see what happens with Star Wars, but Star Wars has been one of those things that they have done a good job with it because there's so many people that want to write about it. You have the talent there. To jump back quickly, I also really enjoyed Life After, which is a story about kind of heaven and hell is more makeshift, manufactured. It's like being in a computer program almost, not Matrix-like, but and we follow the story of Judd, who was God's. He's basically like our Jesus in the story. God decided to go down to Earth and fool around with a woman, and she had a kid, Judd. And Judd is in the afterlife, kind of roaming free. Everyone has their place. If you're in purgatory, you're here. If you're in this heaven, you're here. But Judd figured out how to get out of the programming, and him and Ernest Hemingway are kind of running amok and just having a good time. And it's a good series.
It's awesome.
Now it went from being just kind of here where we're at, it's fun, to now Judd really has a problem. Both heaven and hell are trying to take him out of the programming because they realize he's screwing everything up. This one's by Omnipress. It's a pretty good book. And let's see, I also really enjoyed Fade Out, which is a Hollywood noir mystery by Ed Brubaker. And Ed Brubaker has signed that big contract with Image where he has to bring out so many books. And people were worried this would just be him kind of forcing out books, but it's awesome. Anyone who's a fan of his last book, Fatale, would enjoy this. It's about a murder took place on a Hollywood set, and we have writers, producers, and actors are our main characters, and we're trying to figure out what happened here. But in Brubaker style, there is a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, and a lot of sex. So 18 and up, kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds interesting, though.
It's good. It's well written. I think it's a mini series. I got to look into that. Check my notes.
That would almost make it more enticing to me.
There you go. One book I didn't catch enough was Unity over at Valiant. They're trying to do some PR for the team because, after all that's happened here is that one member of the team, Exo Man of War.
You love those.
Oh, I love these. These are really cool. He tried to take over Romania because that was where his homeland was, and he wound up in war with just about everybody. Then you had the armor hunters coming in and blowing up Mexico City and causing damage all over the world. And they're also hiding the fact that the big robot, big being from the armor hunters, Ginger, which is still a hilarious name for this gigantic thing. They didn't really destroy it. They've got it hidden somewhere. So they're having LiveWire do some PR. They're trying to think, okay, who can we get to join the team that's going to be a nice face for the team that'll make everybody happy? So they grab Faith, also known as Zephyr from the Renegades, who I love this character. She's one of the very few people of size that are featured characters in a comic. She is a hopeful, happy, wonderful, bright sunshine character. I think they're underestimating her. They're bringing her in because they want good PR. They're forgetting she's got some serious chops. So that'll be a real interesting thing to see what happens there. So I'm looking forward to that book. We also got a sneak peek, and I haven't done the review yet, but we got an early view at a book that's coming up in December called The Valiant, and it's pretty awesome. I got to tell you, it's going to be where, well, I won't reveal too much here, but it's going to bring together a lot of the big players in the Valiant universe in a way that only Valiant does. They do great crossover stories. I wish Marvel and DC would take a few cues from how they do these things because they do a great job of the crossovers. So Unity, I would highly recommend.
I have a bunch of trade paperbacks for that. I got to read those.
Yeah.
They were C2E2. They were working deals with me at the end of the convention, kind of like when they were handing you stuff. They were working deals. They were like, "Well, I'll sell you for this," and I'm like, "Well, I only want to buy one." Well, if you buy two, and then by the end, I bought the first 4 books for like $20.
And Valiant will stay, guys. If you go to a con, you'll see a lot of people packing up their booths early, which is sort of sad to see. Valiant will stay there until the absolute bitter freaking end. They will have to say
That is true.
got closed before they start packing a thing, which is really good. That shows they at least care about their fans, and they really do.
Awesome. Well, moving on away from indies, we did this in a little bit different order, but DC had some stuff. Basically everything bat.
Well, let me start and work my way up here. Justice League United has a Legion. I'm going to do a little spoiler alert here, so when I wave again, you'll be able to come back if you don't want to hear this. But something that was really interesting was Legion Lost was a series that was at the start of the New 52, and the Legion series at the start of the New 52 turned out to be a Legion of Earth 2. So we didn't know where Legion Lost fit into this. At the end of this story, for whatever reason, they need to call in reinforcements. Only this new version of the Legion calls in Legion Lost. Okay, y'all can come back. So we'll see how that plays out. I don't know how that's all going to Future's End, I'm starting to warm up to 50 Sue. I know she's annoyed the crap out of me. I'm starting to warm up to her.
She's scary.
She's very upset because Deathstroke chose Brother Eye over her. She said, wait, Batman doesn't throw over Robin for that Riddle guy. He broke the rules. I want him dead. I want a new team.
You know what? Now we know why she's 50 Sue, though. She's called 50 Sue because 52. She's a mix of 52 strands of DNA. I wonder where they came up with the number 52.
Yeah. So that's really I love that series. It's getting a lot more fun, and that's also where it starts with. Last issue, Lois Lane literally made a leap of faith, getting out of a plane, landing on what appeared to be water. Of course, it was sort of shielded when she lands. She lands on Cadmus Island, so she's somewhere there too. That's going to turn out really good. World's End.
The reason,
but World's End, I love. Go ahead.
Before we jump off of Future's End, I think what makes it so well, just like Batman Eternal, there's just so many different pieces going on because it's a weekly, and you just want to know how's this going to fit in, and when are we going to see more of this, and when are they going to fit in, and I feel like they picked their two best writers to do these weeklies.
I think you've hit something because I was about to go over to Earth 2 World's End, and while it's an okay series, it doesn't have as many pieces. And I think that may be part of it. The other part of it is, while I still love Earth 2 World's End, I've been a fan of Earth 2 since the first issue. And you really almost need to know that whole history to appreciate this series. And that sort of plays into the regular Earth 2 series and this week's World's Finest series have basically been relegated to one-shot tie-ins to the Earth 2 World's End series. So if you're into Earth 2, read it. If you're not, you're going to have a heck of a time jumping in.
Yeah.
Then get to now Batman Eternal, we both like. Hush's endgame is coming close here. We got a great battle between the end of the battle with him and Spoiler, which I love Spoiler in this series. What did you think of Batman Eternal?
I thought it's great. I think Spoiler might be a little too talented for self-taught crime fighter here, but I was excited to see Spoiler meet the man, meet Batman, and Batman. Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but I think all these pieces are starting to come together, and we've seen this multiple times in the series, and we're going to see it a few more times, but we see shifts in the storyline, and I think this portion of the story's game changer, and we're going to see another shift. And it's awesome, and the fact that they just have it's the Bat family. Not only is it the Bat family in the thing, but it's the Bat family writing this. Like, everyone who had a piece of Batman is either drawing or writing stories of this, and it is. Some issues are better than others, but I have not had a bad issue yet. This issue is one of my favorites.
It is. Speaking of Batman, we have Endgame, where you just want to say, he's back.
He's back.
And boy, is he back.
Twist. There's two twists in here.
There really is. Oh my gosh. And what a twist at the end, which we're not going to spoil here. But guys, if you read this one, you're going to be just dying to see whatever comes up for the next issue. I can't wait to see what they do next on this.
And they answer. I love the answer, and I've been bugging you about this a lot lately, Ed. Who wins in a fight, Batman or Superman? And you
Right.
and I really enjoyed the answer. The guy I've been arguing with about Batman versus Superman told me the answer was a cop out, but I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought it was the best answer I've heard yet.
I believe you're right. I really do. And this is a great battle. This is at least as good a battle as at the end of Dark Knight Returns.
Mm-hmm. Batman takes on in these last two issues. The first issue he takes on most of the Justice League, and then this issue he takes on Superman, and he truly does. He can't believe he wasn't a Boy Scout. He is prepared.
Oh yes, you got that right. So get that one. You're going to be glad you did. That leads us to
jump onto this arc while you can. It just started. You have to buy 2 issues. That's it. If you haven't, get on the arc.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of being 2 issues in, Batgirl, the new creative team, is 2 issues in. And I'm going to have a lot of stuff to say with extra help on the DC corner. They're obviously aiming for a different demographic. They're obviously aiming for a different tone. I'll give them credit for that. If you look at Gotham Academy, they do a great job of that lighter tone, and I like Gotham Academy a lot. And that really is the tone they're looking for. And I'm glad to not see the entire DC universe be grimdark. But this still, to me, is a great story about someone who is not named Barbara Gordon. Unfortunately, it is about someone named Barbara Gordon. And it's driving me nuts because of that.
It blows my mind. Now, I know this shouldn't matter one way or the other, but it blows my mind that this is written by 2 men that get tween girls so well. Kind of disturbing. They must have daughters.
Although Barbara's not a tween. She's in graduate school.
Well, tell the writers that.
I know.
I can't handle a book that starts. I can't handle a Bat book that starts clothes shopping. And that's not Barbara Gordon. Barbara Gordon is living 2 lives. She's trying to get her job done and fight crime. She doesn't have time to go on dating websites or. Oh my God.
Yeah, but now she blushes because she's near a boy.
Yeah.
Oh, and I love the fact that there were hearts floating around characters' heads.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
It's like Barbara Gordon meets Looney Tunes.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing:
I gave it a 5.
The artwork I'm not upset with. It's an indie feel to the art. I like the new costume design. That's cool. But the writing just drives me nuts, and it's like they're trying too hard to be hip and cool. It would be like if I was trying to be hip and cool. I know I'm too old for that.
I wish I could run this. I didn't do an average of this, but if it wasn't for the art, this thing would get a 2. I swear to God.
Tell us how you really feel.
The artist is saving it. She does a great job. The design's great.
Really yeah.
The story's horrible. The villains are crap too. But here's the problem: Gail Simone built such a great series.
She did.
She spoiled us.
She did. The other part of it really bothered me was that Black Canary is sort of treated as passive aggressive. She is not passive anything, much less passive aggressive. And so it's just, like I said, if this was a start over from scratch with new characters, I could probably get into it better, knowing how much it violates a lot of the basics of not just Barbara, but also Black Canary. It's not my favorite Bat book. Of course, they're not aiming for me. They're going after a different group.
That's what I said. I agree with you.
And I hope they get that group because, to me, the more diversity we have in comics readership, the more stable the medium will be going forward. So I hope they're successful with it. It just certainly isn't for me.
I think I'm just mad that they're not catering this Batgirl to a 33-year-old man.
Yeah.
Which in all sense, it sounds creepy when I say it like that.
Well, and the thing is, I catch myself because ever since the New 52, I've been telling folks, deal with change. Change is good. I know it's not the folks you had before, but look at all the stuff I've lived through. I lived through in 1969. They ruined Batman and Robin for me because they made Dick Grayson grow up and go to college, and he left Wayne Manor, and Batman left Wayne Manor and went to an apartment downtown, and that's horrible. It's awful. And the Teen Titans became pacifists and gave up their uniforms for a while. But if you hadn't had all that, you would have never had Nightwing. You would have never had the New Titans. I was mad when Barry Allen died. If you hadn't had that, you would never have had the great run with Wally West as a Flash. And so I've been counseling people for that since the New 52 started. And now I find myself in that position going, but it's not Barbara. Well, of course it's not the Barbara I knew. They're not aiming for it to be. But I still wish it was done. When I look at Gotham Academy and how well that story's done, I wish the new Batgirl was done that well.
Or how about Mimic? Or Mimetic? They did something similar. But now you made me feel like a dick, like I should apologize to these writers, because you are right. But
I'm still not apologizing. I'm just understanding there's a different way to look at it.
Yeah, we need to figure out. We need to hear someone's point of view that it's more aimed for. But I don't think we want to. We'll let Steven recruit that demographic for the site because I don't want to be on Dateline.
Actually, though, I really would like to see on our site, and I've tried to actually at our comic shop to, when I've met different reviewers, tried to get some female reviewers onto the site as well, because I do think, we're just a bunch of white guys sitting here talking about comics. I think it'd be great to have some diversity on the panel here.
But I think the demographic, I don't think you want to approach the demographic that this book's aiming for, because I don't think it's just aiming for women. I think it's aiming for women under the age of 18. It's really...
Well, and I hope they get the demographic. Like I said, if they do that, then there will be comics still around when I have grandkids, and I think that would be very cool.
Yes, but if I had a daughter who was into comics, I would just pile up Gail Simone comics in front of her.
Yeah, but here's the thing. But why continue the same series that Gail Simone created? Why pick it up right after it with, what was it, Batgirl 34, 35?
Yeah.
Why not start over with a whole new series and do a rebranding instead of saying, here's just Gail Simone's chunk of Batgirl that was phenomenal. Why all of a sudden do a 180 mid-series? That doesn't make sense. If you're gonna make this giant of a change, you should have started over with another one.
Well, let me be real on this. If I was going to start off a tween girl on comics, there's other books that I would pick anyway. Princeless.
Yeah, I was going to say Princeless.
Princeless is a great all-ages book. You talk about a positive role model, a great story. I like reading the book. And it's a book that I'm not ashamed to show any person, anywhere, anytime, of any age. So that's one of many books out there that are really great to start with. Like I said, whatever they're doing, I hope they're successful at it. But I'm just not thrilled at this point with what they're doing with these particular characters. If this was a slice of life book that was not named Batgirl, I'd probably feel different. Just like with Grayson, that's a great spy novel. Shouldn't be Dick Grayson.
To Steven's point, they did this with Teen Titans. They brought in a new creative crew, and they canceled Teen Titans for a month and or a couple months, and then brought in Teen Titans #1. Another Teen Titans #1. They should have done that with Batgirl. And then they could have been like, all new Batgirl.
Yeah.
That's just the kind of shenanigans that goes on at DC Comics.
The Marvel guys love this.
I got to tell you, this is part of why I find myself reading more and more indies. That's where I'm seeing more of the stuff. I mean, like I said, I'll give DC an A for effort. They're trying to get less grimdark, but when I want to see the real innovative stuff, generally I'm going to find that in the indies.
Oh, I think, and I know Image is barely indie these days, but Image gets it. They let people do what they want, and they bring us creativity. Not just Image, but all these smaller publishers. That's where we get the crazy crap going on. That you're like, who thinks of this? Like Saga, for instance. Who comes up with this? And it still just blows my mind.
Or Valiant that came in and said, "Here's an. You think Marvel or DC has a universe? Here's a universe that's way better and way more unified than Marvel or DC."
And what's his name's doing it right now? Mark Millar's doing it over, and he's making his own universe.
Yeah, Valiant probably has the best overall lineup universe of any of the publishers going right now. I'll agree with you. Mark Millar's doing a really great job.
I have to read more Valiant.
Yeah, Dark, you really should, man. I tell you what, I've not read a bad Valiant book ever.
Give me a good jumping point, Ed. Where's a good short? I can't start from the beginning because that's never going to happen.
This past issue of Unity is not a bad place to jump in. And one thing that Valiant does with every book they do is that the very first page inside, you flip over the cover, the first page you're going to see will give you a synopsis of where you've been and how you came to this point.
I like
so
that.
While they're officially on points, they will always catch you up.
Tell you what you know what we can do as a new segment on here. On the fly, I know. Producing on the fly. For a new segment, we should do like pick an indie book, and then pick a jump-in point, and then do a show on what happened up till then, and then now jump in and start reading.
Actually,
I think that would be cool.
Yeah.
For a lot of people that are just reading Marvel and DC and Image. Pick different parts of Valiant and say jump in here and here.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part when I talk to people. Just like people like, hey, I know you write reviews for the site, and I read Batman or I read Wolverine. What can I read that's not Marvel or DC, and where can I jump in? And that's a question I've gotten more than once.
Yeah. Honestly, I like if I'm Valiant because they tend to have an easy jumping in point for some things and some really good quality stories. There's a lot of Action Lab stuff that's just starting up, and they'll start with some new number ones a lot. They tend to do like 4-issue miniseries runs and then start with another arc that's more like a new number one that tends to be pretty good. But now we're seeing more things like Dark Horse is doing more creator-owned stuff. Boom's got some really good books that are coming out. I mean, we're seeing a lot of things coming out now that you just wouldn't have seen a couple of years ago. I've been blown away.
We will work on figuring all that out. I think this is it's a common problem. We know that it exists. So TM Stash is going to see if we can fix it.
First world problems.
We are
first world problems. Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome. You guys got anything else? Wrapping it up here.
Let me give you a little look ahead for DC.
What do we got coming next week?
In DC, you've got Batman and Robin 36, which is Robin Rises. You've got the weeklies, of course, Batman Eternal, World's End, Future's End. Justice League continues the Amazo virus. There's another multiversity book called Pax Americana, so we get to see another new strange world from Grant Morrison. There's some new arcs starting or new creative teams on Supergirl, on Superman, Wonder Woman, and on Wonder Woman. So they're going to, new creative teams, new starts. We'll see how those turn out. The Supergirl one seems a little strange. She's now in the Crucible Academy, which she's been sent to against her will. And they're sort of half billing it as a Hogwarts for superheroes. So I don't know if this is going to be something I'll be thrilled with or not, but we'll see. Wonder Woman will give us the fate of the Amazons, so we'll see what happens there. So a lot coming on there, and of course I'll have some more stuff coming up later on what's coming up with the indies. I'll probably have that posted a little bit later with some of the previews that you'll see over Monday and Tuesday.
I thought of a new segment for you while we were listening to Ed. We need to do just a greatest hits of Joe's reactions to some of the stuff Ed talks about his indies.
I like that.
That's my favorite part when Ed's talking about new series, just seeing how Joe reacts to the ridiculousness.
I'm down. Joe, what's coming up for Marvel?
Okay, this next week is a pretty big week for Axis. The main story continues in issue number 6. A lot of tie-ins with Loki, Agent of Asgard number 8, Axis Revolutions number 2, Deadpool number 37. This is, I think, where we're going to get to see him in his inverted state of a pacifist. Axis Carnage number 2 as he continues to be a hero in training. Magneto number 12, which I think in this book is supposed to be big, and I think my pick here is that he's the one that's taking the Red Skull from the Avengers. I think we'll find out in this book. Death of Wolverine, Weapon X Project number 2, The Uncanny X-Men number 28. Magneto returns to the X-Men in this one. We have 2 books for Spider-Verse, The Amazing Spider-Man number 10, featuring the Superior Spider-Man, and Spider-Woman number 1, we talked about a while back, that had the controversial variant cover that finally hits shelves.
Yeah, and I can't find that variant cover anywhere online for less than like $900.
Inhuman number 8, Time Runs Out continues in Avengers 38 and New Avengers number 26. The Planet Symbiote story begins in Guardians of the Galaxy 21. The Fantastic Four continue to go towards their end in issue number 13, and the sleeper hit finally ends, Superior Foes of Spider-Man number 17. It's been a really good, outstanding series about like a kind of a caper story with the C-list villains of the Spider-Man universe. It's been really funny.
Awesome. That pretty much covers it. I know, Ed, you haven't really had a chance to hit what's coming up at the Indies next week, so sorry for that.
Skips.
So, picks and skips.
There we go.
What do we got, Nick?
You want them both?
One of them. Well, let's
skip?
go. Let's go picks first.
Batman number. I know this. Batman number 36. You can't. It's just. It was good. There were a couple. You had Superman. You have He's Back, and then you had quite the cliffhanger. And then I go with Surfer and Marvel because I always pick 2. Because I feel like I'm special.
Cheater. Joe, what's your pick of the week?
Axis. I like Apocalypse, and I like the inversion stuff. I really do.
Awesome. Ed, pick of the week.
Well, since Batman's already been taken, I'll probably flip over to the indie side and make it a tie between Damnation of Charlie Wormwood and Red Sonja.
Red Sonja was good.
It really was.
Gail Simone.
You
But
got
don't
it.
worry, after Gail leaves that, Red Sonja's going to become a hipster. And get on Twitter.
Hashtag awesome.
Hashtag please no.
Somehow I just can't see her doing hashtag She-Devil. I just really can't.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready for skips?
Skip.
I can't wait.
Go.
Okay. Now, it's real tempting to go for the Batgirl one, but instead I'm actually going to go for one that I sort of like the story, but World's Finest, and the reason I'm saying this is, with Earth 2 World's End going on right now, they're treating World's Finest and Earth 2 as just one-shot tie-ins. You really don't have to read these books to keep up with World's End. And even though I like the story, I'm a little disturbed that these 2 books that have been fantastic books, a Power Girl Huntress team-up and all the great heroes of Earth 2, are now being sort of relegated to cleanup duty for just sort of tie-in stories. And
Yeah, it's gonna. The big war's coming.
yeah, and so I want to. That makes me sort of sad because, like I said, I love Earth 2, but that would be my skip for the week because you don't have to read it to really know what's going on.
And it was confusing. I thought some of the Wonder Woman stuff was confusing at the beginning. Like, what the hell? Who are these people?
Yeah, I'll agree with you there.
All right. Skip, Joe?
My skip of the week is not going to be Spider-Verse. It's going to be all-new Captain America #1, and this is exactly why. They came out with all-new Captain America and Captain America and the Mighty Avengers. Now, neither one. Now, the Mighty Avengers issue, it tied into Axis, which is currently going on right now, while the other one didn't. And I really felt like it should have, because we were just introduced to the all-new Captain America. His personality got inverted, and I really expected that to bleed over into his first issue, and it didn't. And because of that, and because that's what's going on right now, it seemed very less interesting to me, and so that's why I'm giving it the skip.
Fair enough.
So to stick with my cheating, my Marvel skip, I would agree with Joe, because I can't watch Captain America get his ass kicked by Frenchie the Leaper. But Rick Remender did do a great job with humor. I was laughing my ass off. And,
that was funny.
But I think my ultimate skip, I'm going to do it because it's such a cop-out, but I'm going to do it. It's Batgirl. Batgirl! And I think you guys, I think I'll officially retire Batgirl. I don't think I'll use it again because I don't think that's fair to keep using Batgirl.
Oh, you got to get the hat trick. Come on.
I don't even know if I want to pay money for it.
That's
I'm
sad.
going to give it one more shot to see if it gets better, but yeah, I'm sort of burnt out on it too.
Even though I haven't read it, I don't have to read it, but my pick is Witches. I'm just saying.
It was good.
I've got it open, ready to read, like, as soon as we're done with this podcast. I was half tempted to read it during the podcast, but thought that would be slightly irresponsible. But yeah. Yeah, that'd be my pick. I don't have a skip. I'm too busy running the website.
Back
to read too many books. I'm working on it though.
My pick of the week is Ed's awesome Danger Room logo, so I don't have to do it.
Guys, you'll see it.
Yeah, be on the lookout for Nick's new segment on tmsash.com called Danger Room. It's gonna be dangerous.
And I'll say right now,
be kid friendly though.
I kind of copied the format a little bit from Ed and Joe.
So,
but it's the only
be
way
looking
we can
for that.
More books.
And if you guys have any questions or want to reach out to us or want anything covered on the podcast, feel free to email us at findingthestash@gmail.com, and we will make sure it gets on the show or it gets answered, responded back to you one way or the other. Love to get user feedback and kind of start more of a back and forth relationship between us and our viewers, so reach out to us there. Social media, it's all on tmsash.com. You can find all our Twitter handles and everything there, and feel free to hit us up. But until then, till next week, thanks so much, and keep reading the stash. Have a good night.